Right, so the next job we're going to do is fit the timing cover at last, because it's been kicking around this shop for ages. This is the gasket. Kind of simple, isn't it? We're going to use Hylamar the same way we did the rocker box. We're going to put some Hylamar on this cover, stick the gasket to it, then a little smear of Hylamar on the other side, and that'll make it nice and oil tight. But the one thing that's really crucially important is this little gasket here. A lot of people have forgot to put this on. This is very reminiscent of the P gasket on the 300 TDI. The P gasket was notorious for wearing out and blowing and things like this. And the reason for that was that they used originally a paper one, and then they changed it to a metal with a little stampings. And the reason for that was, it was kind of interesting because the cover that they used on the 300 TDI was aluminium, but the block was cast iron. And what you used to get was the difference in expansion and contraction, coefficient of linear expansion, etc. I've always wanted to use that phrase. It used to gradually wear the paper out. You wouldn't have thought it, would you? So they did one in metal. Now, our advantage with this tank of an engine, the timing cover is in cast iron, so the expansion and contraction rate is going to be exactly the same. So let's put this on and let's see what happens. So here we go. We're just going to put a little bit more oil on this chain. Just to get it started. Just to be sure, Now, I think these bolts are going to be longer. Oh. Gasket on. And also, where the holes are at the back of the seal, I've put some Hylamar to seal up any holes. It's heavy. It's dowels now. Now I just put those bolts in there temporarily. What I'm going to do, they're the right size, so I'm just going to put a little bit of thread guard on those bolts, whip them down, and then we'll have to see about the water pump. Because I bought a new water pump for it, but it's not the one for a series truck, if you see what I mean. It's a little bit different. Let's get that bolted on. Right, cover's on. I haven't done the crank bolt yet. I've got the water pump on. Going to give this a crown rust proofing because this is still sort of cast iron, so it'll go a bit odd. New hose on. Everything's good. The next thing we've got to do, the oil feed pipe that goes from the back of the block to the head. Now it's really important with these banjo bolts here to blow them through because the hole is restricted in there, because you don't want too much oil getting into your valve chest at the top. Otherwise you'll get too much oil and it'll start burning oil, it'll sit at the top and it'll leak, all sorts of things. But what I wanted to say to you was this, that in the gasket set there wasn't the right size washers. Fortunately, I collect old bits and pieces of washers out of old gasket sets, and I keep these things just in case. So there's the pipe. It doesn't look too good. Well, we'll clean it up a bit with a bit of wire wool and we'll bolt it on, and it bolts on the back. Oh, my back's getting heavy now. I'm not looking forward to tipping this over. Right, so it bolts on like that. Alright, bolts on the back. You'll be familiar with that. The next thing we're going to fit is the dipstick. Now the dipstick's a bit of a nasty one because it's seized on there. Now I don't think I've got a spare one, but there's an olive at the bottom. But I'll put a little bit of RTV sealer on there just in case, because that will not come out of there. It's supposed to have an O-ring at the top. I bet there's none in the gasket set. It seems to be very disappointing, that gasket set. Let me get a key to tighten that down, and then the next thing we'll do is we'll have a look at the manifold. We might as well put some weight on this so it spins around really quick. The manifold itself is kind of a strange one because, well, I'm just going to put a regular, how do we say, a regular 2.5 gasket on. Not a 2.5, a 2 1/4 gasket, and it's got this type of fitting on. You know, just little shims that go on here for the intake. There's nothing on the exhaust. They say put some copper sealer on. You know, not copper sealer, but copper guard, thread guard. I'm not sure about that. But what I've got to do is work out the studs that are missing and the bolts, and I've also got to find the temperature, the water outlet that goes on here. So let me get these tightened up and we'll put it all back together. Right, I've tapped all the holes out, make sure the studs are all nice and clean. Using these manifold gaskets here. I think the early ones used to be a one-piece gasket. These are just a compression gasket. The little compression bit goes towards the cylinder head. It's easy, isn't it? On the exhaust faces, well, they say put some copper, like copper slip. Well, it's not going to work, is it? So I'm just going to put a little bit of exhaust cement, exhaust paste over the flange, leave it to settle. Now I think there's some studs missing. I know some have got bolts in and some have got studs. I can't remember which is which because this is how I took it off. But we can replace them later, and it's supposed to have at the end some lock washers. I don't know why, but anyway, it's got some lock washers. We haven't got any of those either. That we've got now. So there's the manifold. I'm just going to put some sealer on this and then we'll come back. Well, all the bolts are going in well. I've kept the best till last, naturally. These little bridge pieces that go between the manifold and the exhaust, intake and exhaust, right underneath, kind of tricky place to get to. And it's kind of tricky to calculate which is the right bolts for this. I went out and bought a couple of... I had loads and loads of metric bolts in stock. I wanted to use them up, that's why I've used all new bolts. But I didn't have some very long ones like this, so I went and got some. I think this is right. Getting it in is a bit of a tricky thing, so I'm going to put a little bit of thread guard on there. I'm not sure, I don't think there were studs. I think they were just bolts. Oh, how did they manage in the past without an impact driver, eh? Bloody hell. Yeah, they went good. Too good. So we're almost at the end of this project. We've only got the oil pump to put on and the crank. Fasten the crank up and then put the sump on. Kind of good, really. I'm really pleased at this. Just make sure when you put these on that the flats go this way, not the other way around. Don't put them that way around. You go on that way. And try and guide them with your fingers, because if they'll twist, the exhaust will blow. I've noticed when I've got these tightened up, that exhaust paste has squidged out a bit, so that'll dry. Should make a good seal. We hope. Let's see if we can get this one in here. This must be a bit to do on the car. There we go. Hey! One exhaust manifold on, and also the studs for the exhaust are in good condition. They used to have brass nuts on these things. You used to put dissimilar metals on. But I don't think they do anymore. I don't know. Dipstick. not me. There we go. I wasn't sure what colour the dipstick was, so I had some orange paint and I just painted it orange. Looks alright, doesn't it? Now, the only downside, which I haven't got, I've got a carburettor, but I haven't, the little block that goes on the top, like the plastic or phenol block, was broken. So I've got to get one of them. Now it's 6 o'clock, I think it's time we call that a day. We'll turn this upside down. Man, that's going to be a bugger, isn't it? How am I going to do that? That's going to spin like crazy. Well, I'm not going to film it anyway. But the thing is, how am I going to get it back again to lift it up? But it looks alright, doesn't it? I've noticed on these particular engines, the heater hose used to come out of here, and this was blanked off at the back. You know, water used to come out of these two and goes to your tubes across here. But these, for some reason, they've got a U shape across there and they're blanked off. I'm not really sure. And I'm not sure if this had a plug in it, thinking about it now. It makes sense. I don't know. Let me see if I can get this turned round without doing myself a mischief. If you don't hear from me anymore, I've done myself a mischief.